Yo, bro.
Yeah, bro.
Yo, bro.
Do I have to do that as well, or can I get away with not doing
I paused that time to give him the opportunity
Just in
before
case.
I went. You know, anyone? Yeah, just in case.
I'm good.
You're good? All right, we're just
Yeah, I'm
checking.
good.
Hey, man, we're not going to force nothing on nobody in here, all right?
I appreciate it. Thank you for that.
It's a double negative.
It would have been nice, though, if you did say it. For
Yeah.
next time.
Okay.
Now you know.
Yeah, well, that's an excuse to have me on again.
What's going on, dude? How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for asking. Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely.
Of course.
For the listeners out there, today we're joined by MrAtomicDuck, a fellow content creator all over the gaming industry, putting out all sorts of content guides. But I will let him give a nice little elevator pitch for those who might not be familiar. He'll do it much better than me. My man, tell us what you got going on.
Sure. So, like you just said, my channel name is MrAtomicDuck, but most people go by calling me Duck most of the time. Most of my content exists on YouTube. I make gaming videos for Project Zomboid, but occasionally other games as well, mostly in the zombie survival genre. I'm on TikTok. I used to stream on Twitch and kind of segued across to pre-recorded content, which was a heck of a journey. I've been doing YouTube videos now for about 2 years full time. So, yeah.
Let's go, dude.
That's
Content
awesome, man.
creator. Love to hear it.
I feel like that's such a difficult journey to make that transition to, from a bunch of live content to killing the game in the video space. I'm sure you can speak to those difficulties. I as someone who has, attempted many endeavors into pre-recorded content, it's been no joke. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Some things just you have to. I think you have to have that mindset and mentality that you're prepared to have a lot of things not work before finding what does work for your channel, whatever that is.
It's a great point.
And there was a lot for me. Like I streamed on Twitch for I think about 4 years, and just didn't see the sort of success I was looking for. And I did YouTube for about a year and a half before it really took off. So.
It's a great message, though, for people who got into the Twitch live streaming space later, right? Because, I mean, what year did you start?
Oh, God. Now you're asking. I mean, that must have been 10 years ago now, 9 years.
But
so
as far as like full-time like streaming.
Full-time streaming, never did full-time.
I see.
Yeah, so I would stream every day for 5 days a week. But I was in full-time employment at the time.
I gotcha.
So
when I know we have a couple things we want to chat about, but I'm just real quickly. When you started YouTube, were you making very similar content to the content you were streaming, or were you just like, I want to make something totally different?
When I first started, yes, it was very similar to Twitch. So I streamed Escape from Tarkov, which is where I initially met Mark. And I started making some YouTube videos to that, and 1 or 2 of them did all right. But to be honest, then I went for something completely different and just decided I'm going to try something new. And I started, this is going to give me PTSD, and Mark is going to laugh already because he knows what's coming. I made some videos covering the development of Dead Matter, which was a zombie game that has completely tanked. Something about zombie survival games, I think, that just scream buy me and rip me off. So there was that, and then I went from that to making some other zombie videos, and the real one that took off was for Project Zomboid. There was a period where a lot of streamers were getting back into it after a big update. There was kind of like 2 or 3 months where it wasn't really picked up, and then some people started streaming it, loads of people started buying the game. And I did a video that was titled, why is Project Zomboid suddenly so popular? And that was the one.
That was it.
I just stuck with it. So. Oh
man, dude, I think I might be a little biased on zombie games because I have a permanent soft spot. Because the game that made me become a gamer and just get into the whole community was DayZ standalone.
Oh, yeah. That was the reason I got a PC.
Dude,
once
me
upon a
too.
time.
Dude, love that game.
Operation Arrowhead Daisy mod
Oh man.
of Armor 2.
Well, I'm sure a lot of zombie game players might be angry at a lot of the games going on. And speaking of anger, how you like that segue right
That's
there?
nice.
That was good.
Why don't we, Abe, what do we got first on the agenda?
As you alluded to, we have everyone's favorite segment to start off this week, and that would be, what are gamers angry about this week?
Roll the clip. That's nice. That's real nice.
Oh, I don't think we prefaced Duck with that clip, so he's probably sitting there like,
Yeah, it's just like, I'll just sit here until they tell me the clip's over and smile and wave.
Easy.
easy. All right, what do we got, Abe?
So this one's going to probably ring true with our two resident streamers here, and that's the Tarkov Arena launched this week. And let's just
here we
say,
go.
let's just say it launched to less than stellar response from the community. We've had a lot of other noted Tarkov streamers chime in on Twitter about what they feel is wrong with Arena. I think One Peg probably said it best, where it's fun for a couple of games and then the flaws get immediately exposed thereafter. So I have a list of problems here that people have kind of identified, and it starts primarily with just the amount of people that have been let in. They really didn't toss out a lot of keys. So there's a very small group to play at first, a really small player base. And as that's grown, they've created another problem in that you rank up and have loadouts in Tarkov Arena. So as all these players are slowly trickling in and just getting absolutely stomped by the people that were in before them, because they pretty much have kits that their armor and things make them unkillable by those players with the weapons that they're given. Coupled with the fact that they did not really pass out keys on the Asian servers, so it's kind of dead if you try to play over in Asia. And then our favorite friend, Netcode, is still absolute trash and causing tons of desync problems with the game. With all that being said, go ahead, guys, take it away.
All right. So first and foremost, I feel like a little bit of credit is due in the sense where I get the foresight to not give everyone who bought EOD access to the game immediately, right? Because Escape from Tarkov never has been one to launch anything fresh with high volume very well, right? And that is the main reason for that is, unfortunately, like a lot of these things are tied back to, is the corporate greed of not really wanting to pay for the server infrastructure that's needed. Unfortunately, for the load that's going to exist for a period of time, the purchases get made and that's it. And they are not incentivized to maintain a positive playing experience. And they have shown for the last, 7 years now, that they don't necessarily care all that much, through their actions, nonetheless, their lack of words. So, I get why they don't let the EOD people in. Unfortunately, they phrased it on their website for the pre-order, which is the massive, for those that don't know, Edge of Darkness is the pre-order package for Escape from Tarkov. That costs $145. And
it's the most expensive one too,
It is
right?
the most expensive one, correct. Yeah, and so one of the perks is literally written instant access to all future DLC.
Oh, really?
And so, unfortunately, the phrasing of that suggests that people who had EOD would instantly be able to play the game. And unfortunately, that obviously wasn't the case.
I mean, you would think that would be a reasonable assumption to make based on that wording.
You would think that.
But is it downloadable content or is it a total different game?
So if you have EOD, you got access. You own Arena as a result. So I would say it falls underneath that umbrella. If you didn't have EOD, then you have to purchase Arena separately.
Okay.
Right? And so to me, that definitely means, okay, this falls under that scope, right? Again, I get it, but these are problems that easily could have been solved by spending more to bolster the infrastructure for a period of time. And this doesn't have to exist forever, but while people are diving in and enjoying the game, I would have loved to see more people get access quicker. Unfortunately, of course, there's always the back end. Hey, how you doing, Mr. Content Creator? Let me send you this code into your DMs, whether you have, spent years and years supporting the game or not. And so there were some revealed instances of that, some screenshots leaked of some DMs of some code access that's given out by the content creators. I personally, yes, they're absolutely furious. First and foremost, people don't care.
This
that
Tarkov slot. People can be mad about anything.
That's true. That's very true. It's a great point. Yeah, there's no common sense used within the gaming community about. Of course, it's beneficial to Tarkov to get the access out to everybody so they can sell more and make more money and quote unquote put more money into the development of the game or whatever future game projects.
Funds correctly.
Yeah, you would hope, right? And so, as a content creator or as someone who just has basic business knowledge, of course it makes sense. That being said, it wasn't it wasn't preemptive. I'll tell you that, because I did not receive access for the first, many days as someone who has an EOD account dating back to 2016 and another EOD account dating back to 2017. I did not, and also an in-game item in Escape from Tarkov. Have you ever seen the Raven in game? Hey, how you doing? That's been in the game for over 5+ years now, and so I didn't receive access. I'm not sure there should be a whole lot of Mr. Nikita man, how come I didn't receive my key? You know what I mean? So
well, I don't know, dude. You've taken up arms against Tarkov publicly a lot, so maybe you're on a list now, dude. And not the list.
I better be on the list. I've been working hard to become on that list, bro. I don't know, dude. I still got invited to a lot of stuff at the last TwitchCon in Vegas where they were. So maybe it's it's water under the bridge at this point, because obviously, as a creator, I've moved on pretty significantly since then. But I will say it wasn't one of those things where, they didn't even have the foresight to DM the creators that have in-game items or have, championed their game for years at a time through content distribution in advance. Right.
Can I be honest here? I don't think it's as deep as a lot of the people complaining about it think it is.
No, it's negligence.
I think it's literally it's negligence. It's literally just them like you said, not having the foresight to get in touch with people. They've done so many streaming events over the years. I mean, we all remember Twitch drops if you played Escape from Tarkov a couple of years ago. And I was put on that list where I hadn't streamed Tarkov in a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody was like, hey, have you seen that you're on this list? And I was like, okay, what list? Looked at the list, was like, oh yeah, you're due to stream on this day for this time slot for however many hours it was.
Wow.
6 hours or something for drops. And I was like, guys, I haven't played the game in a year and a half. And there are people complaining that they didn't have access to the Twitch drops who were streaming the game actively. And I was just like, look, I'm not doing it. So I was on their Discord still, and I just messaged one of the devs and was like, I'm not playing it. I haven't streamed the game in 18 months.
Right.
So that's not them wishful thinking. That's negligence.
I think that's just negligence, but they didn't tell anybody that when they were going to be streaming in advance or talk to them about organizing it or anything like that.
That's
they just said this. The first
we
knew about it. The first
and
we
if
knew
you're
about
big enough,
it was
they're
when
willing
it went
to
up.
change that date for you, and that's really all it comes down to. And even for me, I asked to change my day, no response.
Yeah.
All right.
I didn't even know until the list was posted online. I didn't get any sort of
there's no notice. No.
I love how bad they are, dude. It cracks me up, man.
I think it is just negligence. I don't think it's as deep as a lot of people think it goes.
No.
Giving access to these people and whatever. It's just.
And granted, the community for Tarkov is just a ton of babies at this point. It is the single whiniest community I've ever seen in my entire life. And I don't necessarily hold that against them or blame them. It's a result of Battlestate's negligence and just
Yeah.
absolutely not caring about their well-being or whether or not they enjoy their time when they boot up the game. That's what it comes down to, and that's why they're so mad. But damn, is it irritating to see them post on Twitter. So this week for me, like, Twitter's been an avoidance for me because it's a rough read.
Do you think that they have a No, sorry, Duck, you go.
No, sorry. I was just going to chime in with Mark's comment there and say, so it's been a while since I've been active in the Tarkov community at all. It got to the point about 6 months ago now. You have like those little blacklisted words on Twitter that just won't show you any content relating to those words.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Tarkov's on there.
Yeah, I don't blame you at all. And I'm sure your life is better
Scavs,
as a result.
Tarkov, like all netcode, stuff like that. All those buzzwords that come up in Tarkov so often.
Oh my god!
Just blocked because I follow a lot of people that play Tarkov,
right?
Because of my background in the game. But I don't want to see it every couple of days. Some new issue coming up. It's just, and it's better for me as like mental health. Just genuinely not hearing about it is better.
Wise. I should take a page out of that book.
Do you think they have a list of like priorities and stuff that they could just half-ass, or do you think they're really just winging it?
Winging it.
When you say half-ass,
yeah,
I'm not sure there's anything they don't half-ass. That being said,
okay,
they have specifically avoided anything that has to do for the main game. I'll say they for like maybe like 3 years they've avoided almost everything that they can that has to do with like the bettering the multiplayer experience. And what I mean by this is, like the backend netcode, the PvP. Is it like a profitable experience? Is it an enjoyable experience? The server stability, all these things that make the actual combat fun or incredibly frustrating and not fun at all. And they ignore this because the vast majority of resources are going towards creating their single player experience, which they will sell for a chunk of money at some point down the line, right? And that shift happened a while back. It's one of the main reasons why the development of Tarkov and the promises that were made once upon a time haven't really came to fruition, and why every wipe is so spread out with little to no content from time to time. So it's not that they're not like working on the game. It's just that they're working on the next thing they can charge you for, and that their priorities that basically dictates their priorities for what they want to work on.
And somehow they're doing well. Like people are always talking about their game, whether it's good or bad. Escape from Tarkov is always coming up. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I think like it just goes to show, like, if you create something that is like new and innovative, it doesn't have to be good. It's first. You're either first or you're good. And they came up with something that is truly different and created a new genre for gaming, and they were the first to do it, right? And I think that there are other projects that have done a lot of things better than them. Some of those projects were grossly misguided, but at the end of the day, like, I don't think any game is ever going to match the popularity of Tarkov or overtake it in any way, shape, or form.
Wow.
But are you shocked that no AAA studio seems to have ever attempted to, with how popular Tarkov? Because I've never. It's always small studios that try to recreate the game, basically.
Well,
or
that's
their
why
version of the
Bungie
game.
was making Marathon until they imploded and fired most of their staff. I have no idea what the future of that's going to be. I don't know if you've seen any of that, Ducky.
I have seen a little bit about that. Yeah, I was just going to go back to what Abe's question was there. I think the thing is, Abe, is that with a lot of these companies, you have to remember that, like, even Escape from Tarkov, when it started out, I would say it would be considered a small development team when it started.
True.
Maybe not anymore. I don't know like what their team size is now, but AAA developers are always going to go with the safe bet. In my opinion, they have no reason to push the boat out and try something new because their investors and their shareholders want them to go for what they know will make them money. And selling anything with any sort of risk to those shareholders is going to be a difficult time, in my opinion. But
sorry, I just lost connection a little bit. Sorry if I interrupted you there.
No, you're good.
Okay.
At the end of the day, too, all they have to do, like these AAA companies, is if they do make an experience within this genre to try and capitalize on that hype, all they have to do is make something that's going to engross someone more than 2 hours so they can't return the game. And why would they make it a deep, fleshed out, full experience? They're not incentivized to in any way, shape, or form. So that doesn't feel good as a consumer. And that's why I'm such a huge proponent of figuring out ways to incentivize monetization for high concurrent user, right? Whether that's like a cosmetic based thing, microtransactions that are cosmetic only, right? Not, the Cycle Frontiers fake cosmetic only microtransactions where you could just pay for insurance in the game and get all your gear back all the time and stay rich because you swiped your credit card, which they refuse to acknowledge for the entirety of their existence.
I'm judging by Slum's face that he's heard this argument before, once or twice.
And as someone who is like one of the main partners and worked closely with that dev team, I was super vocal about it live on stream all the time. And
that was,
because it was just it was just swept under the rug repeatedly. And it's like people literally are just using their credit card to stay having like a large inventory in this game. That is ridiculous.
Well, so how I always say, if you make a product or if you make a service or whatever, it's crucial to listen to the feedback and shape it around the community's feedback. What are the chances that they had more feedback saying it was good that outweighed your feedback that was saying it was bad?
Well, that's the thing is like the outcries from Reddit was all that they ever paid attention to for the most part. And it was like the squeaky wheel gets the grease, right?
Yeah.
It's people who are complaining on the forums because they are unwilling to put the time in to become better at the game. And so they want every functionality possible to decrease the skill gap between players who put time in versus players who don't. And that's a massive piece of convenience for them that, if they only get to play 2 hours a week in their free time, they don't have to worry about losing their gear because they can just use real life money and maintain it. And I get that, but it doesn't make for a good game. And it's basically meant that only in the short term, the Cycle Frontier made money and their game doesn't exist anymore because they didn't play for the long term and make a game that has a meaningful skill gap that requires long-term investment that fosters a healthy player base. So they made their choice with a very, expected outcome, for me at least.
Yeah.
Ducky, what do you got? You're about to go in there.
I was just going to say, I will say, I would not want to be a game developer in recent years because we're talking about like only taking feedback from like Reddit, for example. I think that the difficult part of being a game developer these days is taking feedback, but knowing which feedback is valuable and which isn't.
Correct.
And that is such a fine line to draw because there's going to be a bunch of feedback coming your way, whether you want it to or not. And just identifying what's actually good feedback and what isn't, who knows their stuff more than X person or Y person, it is incredibly difficult, I think. And this is why I think it's more important than ever that you have two things, which is quality assurance and actually in-house, like people with an actual background in whether it's content creation or games development that can advise you on what a good decision looks like. And I think in my opinion, there's a severe lack of that in games development at the minute.
I know a guy who's trying to fill that void and is actively working with multiple teams to do so. Yeah, I think, the analytical approach is severely lacking on the streaming side of things. So I think people who have that perspective don't necessarily know how to provide information in a meaningful way. I'm lucky that my educational background allows me to be able to do that and articulate it well in a way that can be comprehended by developers. I also think that creators have the unique perspective of being able to synthesize feedback from their communities, from very large ranges of experience, and then be able to, you know, if they have the skill set to synthesize that into, you know, meaningful feedback for the dev team, right? So be that relay between the two, and be that like be able to sift through it, just like you said, because it is so difficult, right? It's like some things, like I will see as feedback and I will articulate to that person like, hey, this is not the right approach and here's why. And I get to, I feel like more often than not I get to the point of like them understanding, oh, this doesn't actually benefit the player base. I also think that a lot of people just assume that streamers provide feedback in a way that is only beneficial to them as like a nonstop sweaty gamer lord, you know what I mean?
Oh yes.
And we see this all the time, like, don't listen to the streamers, dev man. You know, like they don't know what they're talking about. They just assume that, like, it's only from that perspective. And for me, it's for the health of the game. For the long-term health of the game is what defines what I'm willing to give feedback for. It's never like at my own expense often, right? It's like at my own personal experience expense. Like it is what it is. But I know what is going to allow for the devs to realize that success in the long term. And it's something like obviously I'm super passionate about, and I try to pursue at every juncture if it's a team that I believe in, that I truly think is going to take the time to you know, listen and implement and understand where I'm coming from, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's rare that you get those kinds of dev teams.
Yes.
Now especially, but it's one of the reasons that not just obviously having that breakout video about Project Zomboid that made me get into it, but knowing that the dev team had been working on that game for such a long time, and that they actually do take on feedback. They support their modding community, which is like a huge thing for the game. It's made so many things viable in that game that weren't before. And they do such a good job of identifying who is important to listen to, who actually has the advice worth listening to, who do we support, who do we include in our processes. And they do listen. They have a lot of different channels of what should we say, like insider, backer, support, whatever you want to call it, where they get those people together and actually have these chats with them, and they're very transparent about all the development, what they're working on. And I think all of that is so rare now, so rare. For one thing or another.
I think so I always say, like, companies got to listen to that feedback. And what you said is going to make me, now I have to add a little phrase at the end. So every time I go on my spiel when I'm talking with people, because you're right, you have to decipher as well. There could be 99 people telling you the wrong piece of feedback and one person telling you the right piece of feedback.
Yeah,
you have to have a really good sorting mechanism and know which feedback is the feedback you should be listening to. So I appreciate you for that, dude. That's nice.
Yeah.
Abe, do you want to show us these tweets before we go to the next one?
Just to I guess to take it back to Arena itself. We got one peg chiming in here, just basically saying that Arena's not ready. It's fun for a handful of games, but then he says you get gear checked because kit tiers come faster than ranks, SBMM and GBMM, so skill-based matchmaking and gear-based matchmaking don't exist, and all the netcode is still shit. So, you know, he alludes to it further on too in another tweet down here, but basically there's no win streak bonuses and things like that. So people that are getting in the game late, they're going to get stomped for like 50 plus rounds at this point, just in trash kits that they have no even point of playing against some of these guys in the higher kits. And then we got our pal Deadly Slob checking in saying that his two main issues he has with Arena are that EOD still can't play. We addressed that. We talked about it a little bit. And then he feels like if you work on more than one tree, there's ARP creep, and the higher rating, the better kits. And it leads to only using one loadout for hours. So there's no variety in the kits because there's overpowered ones versus not. So they tried to make an Arena shooter and they failed because they put too many of their Tarkov based elements like ammo tiers and things like that, and they didn't give people an equal footing, which is kind of the point of an arena shooter, right? That's where CS and even Valorant and games like that shine, because it's equal. It's just all about your gunplay and your skills and your movement and your call outs and things like that, where arena is now lacking. So maybe Nikita will listen to that feedback instead of doing his usual feedback approach, which is he just listens to no one and does whatever the hell he wants to do. So that's the third tier of feedback requests.
I don't think so, dude. I think to wrap. Oh, sorry about that. Why don't you wrap that section up?
Yeah, I think it's pretty unlikely that we see any difference here. I mean, ultimately, this was just an additional source of income for Battlestate, and clearly, if you're making an arena shooter, you want all things equal. And the fact that they didn't even have the foresight to exclude all these RPG, RNG elements of when you shoot somebody, it rolls like 3 different dice or 4 different dice at a time, is absolutely wild. And not to mention people going up against each other with different pieces of gear. It makes no sense. So from a competitive standpoint, if that was the intent, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I do have to question, like, from an outside perspective, obviously I don't know like the inner workings of how it would all work, but to me it seems like such an easy thing that they could have done to just add one side, which was like, okay, everybody goes in with a random kit, everybody goes in with random stuff, and it's a free-for-all or whatever, teams or whatever,
right?
And then have the second side, which is everybody goes in with the same stuff, right? So that everybody's on a level playing field. Like, why do we have to have a progression gear based system in a competitive shooter? It doesn't, from an outside perspective, the two just don't play together in my mind. Why can you not just have the two side by sides, different modes available? I don't know. That's a little bit weird to me, and I don't know who thought it was a good idea to have progressive gear and then let these people in first so that they get the one up over everybody else.
Yep, and it's separated from your elo as you climb. So yeah, I mean, like, I think that's the main reason why I just had to like separate in my mind's eye the difference of Tarkov and other shooters, right? Is that it's an MMO. It's literally an RPG, right? Where players are just role playing these characters. And if you try and look at it in any other way, you're going to have a bad time because they don't have consistent results of expectation, right? It doesn't exist in the game. And yeah, to literally take that and quote unquote design a competitive experience without removing those elements is ass backwards, which has only ever been like the MO of Battlestate since the beginning. So I think this is a massive like surprise Pikachu face. Who would have guessed? So.
Oh man, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. So, and to wrap it up, nothing new, and Battlestate's still doing the same old.
Yeah, that's correct.
Sounds like it.
What do you say we possibly change up the mood here a little bit, Abe?
Yeah, I have an exciting update for everybody that listened last week. So last week we discussed Twitch's stance on nudity and artistic nudity, and actually Mark gave them some praise for how they handled what we would call the topless meta, which has now evolved into the black bar meta, where you just cover your bits with a black bar across the screen. So Twitch has now reverted their policy, but not for those reasons. They're not actually reverting it to go after the streamers that have been doing the topless streams and things like that. They've actually reverted their stance on artistic nudity, because it turns out when you allow artistic nudity, you start getting a bunch of AI and furry and anime porn on your front page. So 1 week after rolling out the artistic nudity policy, we are back to artistic nudity is banned on Twitch.
Wait, I thought the policy was they would push it to the back.
That is correct.
How did it end up on the front page?
Well, here's the lack of foresight, because the idea, right, was good. The execution, not so much. As it turns out, they left it to be user determined whether or not they were going to get sorted out.
Wait, explain that to me. What do you mean?
They had to self-tag. These were not going to be like tags for streams that had done this in the past, or have it be based on the content that actually exists, or to scan it with AI or anything like that. I'll tell you what, there's no reason that they don't have the tech to AI scan these and sort them that way, because I'm over here getting pinged on YouTube for playing a trailer with no audio, and because they're scanning the video and they know that I'm playing this trailer, and to take a piece of the rev from a live stream, and I'm filtering out audio. So
did they tell everyone that it was? Did they let people know that it
was ambiguous to begin with?
Okay.
And if you are doing that, then yes, you were told to tag appropriately. That being said, obviously, since it was user sorted, to literally take yourself off of a potential front page slot, nobody did it.
Oh, that's what you mean. It's not like me going to Twitch, I have to block these people that I don't want on my front. No. It's them streaming saying, I'll take away 10,000 eyes from my stream right away. Sign me up. Really?
Incredible.
It was a mature content tag.
Yeah.
What? Whose idea was that?
You know, it's one of those things where you question, like, do they even, like, A, does it get thought out? B, they have to just be doing it for the optics of doing something rather than actually trying to do something.
Yep.
You know, it's like, obviously that's going to be the case. So it just, it's super frustrating stuff. I thought it was a move in the right direction if it actually played out the way that they, quote unquote, intended. But without the proper like setup for it, they didn't intend for anything to happen. They just wanted to get their brownie points with doing nothing.
The delivery was very lacking in that department, and I think I want to say I saw Co Carnage talking about this as well, is that individuals were banned when they were following those new rules that they had set before the rules were then changed, and they didn't revert those bans afterwards. When the rules were changed back, there were still people that were banned who at the time had filled something that was within the rules that they had just changed.
So what did they get banned for?
So artistic nudity, I would imagine, but there were bans dished out by Twitch during that period, and then the rules were changed thereafter.
Right, as if it wasn't Twitch's fault originally.
Right, exactly. So if you're going to change the rules, you can't then say, "Oh no, actually, we're changing things back." But because you've broken the rules as they were before, we're gonna give you a temporary ban.
That doesn't make sense. Like, that really doesn't make sense. I don't.
The inconsistency for enforcement of TOS has always been a massive issue for Twitch.
A massive mess.
Well, can I just let me try to repeat that to make sure that I'm understanding that correctly. So when they shifted the rules to artistic nudity, you have to select this tick that says mature on your channel. People did that in this time period where they had that rule, but yet they got banned in this time period from a rule that wasn't even in place. That's what you're saying?
That's correct. Yeah.
That's
because in their mind, they'd already decided at that point they were going to change the rules back, but they hadn't done that yet.
I'm pre-banning you because I know we're about to change the rule.
Right.
To add some context too, there was like a bunch of tweets that went out after the policy changed of people basically showing the front page. And I mean, you're talking like half naked foxes that are men with like all their bits showing and all kinds of crazy crap that was right on the front page. Yeah. Girthy foxes. And I'm talking about the actual animal foxes too, not like a good looking human. And that really was a shock on Twitter, and a lot of people were reporting that stuff. And I'd love to give you guys some examples, but I don't want to.
Yeah, let's do it.
Shut down. So I don't think I can. And then a little bit of just stats here too that were actually provided by our guest today. But 41% of Twitch's audience falls in the category of ages 16 to 24. So really not a good look when most of your audience is falling in the age range that is under the mature content. And we also know that putting a mature content label on something is as easy as I just have to click yes, I'm 18 and I'm in anyway. but at least then they can dust their hands and wash them clean of any liability in that case.
I think so we see their audience. I think Twitch needs to just really say what type of platform are we, like, and that's where the lines are. And then from there, we can start putting in policies of where you rank or where your content is stored.
Right.
But it's just always evolving, and they're trying to move their goalpost with it. And you should just stake it in the ground, wherever it is, even if full nudity is okay. Stake it in the ground, and now that's offered on your platform, but it's in this section over here.
Sort yourself or get banned.
There you go.
That's where the bans come in. No, I mean, like,
sort yourself. Yes.
Label your content appropriately or face consequences. And if you're pushing the limits beyond what Twitch deems acceptable without pinging, right? If it's anything sexually suggestive, you have to put on the mature filter. You go into a different spot. And it's okay. I don't think people are going to not thrive in this new location on the website. But the point is that it's not on the front page, which has a massive impact on the potential for advertisers, which is the main reason why Twitch isn't profitable, because they suck at properly selling ad space. It's the main reason why we've seen ads had to be shoved down the throats of all the broadcasters, which greatly impacts the watchability of live streams on the day-to-day. Incredibly frustrating. They don't do a good job picking up the data on the back end so that they can target for ads, so they can't sell that. And if they have, naked individuals on the front page and furry porn, like, I don't see them selling too much more ad space. You know what I mean? Not at a premium, that's for sure. So has a negative impact on like career broadcasters that stream on Twitch outside of everything else, whether you care about the nudity or not. So
I think once that content becomes legal on their site, right, or again, not against the rules, I actually don't think you see quite as much of it anyway, because as I said last week, part of the reason that a lot of people go there to do this stuff is because you're not supposed to. So you stand out and you're able to capture a bigger audience because people aren't going to, OnlyFans. Your just audience is it's already captured. Everybody's already there for that. They go into Twitch for other reasons primarily, so you stand out more.
Yeah, but those are smart creators. Like those content creators are still going to flood in.
100%.
You can't even blame them for it. Like, they're just identifying something that is a niche market that they can capitalize on. But the thing is that Mark was absolutely right. Categorization and proper rules in place and processes to stop the wrong people from seeing those things. You have to take an element of responsibility. You are hosting all of this content on your platform. You are the platform where this stuff is visible. And if you aren't taking control of that situation and saying, okay, look, we can't have this on the front page because our audience is, primarily young viewers. So let's put this aside and put it somewhere where they have to go through a couple of steps to get there. And that would be the sensible adult thing to do. But
they're scared. They're scared and they're spineless. Like all of these big companies now, they're scared to piss off the minority, and they'll catch a lawsuit or they'll get boycotted or whatever.
I think it's also an element of turning a blind eye to the situation, right? Like, obviously they have tried to tackle it in some respect, but how long has it taken them to do that? Like, it's been this has been a thing now in various different forms for quite a long time. People pushing the boundaries in the just chatting category primarily. And I think the question is like, where do you want to draw that line? And do they want to draw it at all? Because we saw the same thing with copyright music. They would almost rather turn a blind eye to it and wait for it to blow up in their face years down the line than actually do something.
Quite literally how they run the business, right?
Yeah.
But to everyone's detriment. So it is definitely frustrating. I think, like, if you put it in its designated corner, first and foremost, that's not a difficult thing to do. People will always push the bounds, and then it's just proper enforcement, right? It's like they need to have a dedicated team to literally like scan this, or use AI. It's one or the other. Invest in something. I don't think like this is like this like massively complicated rocket science to solve. Like. I don't know. I find it incredibly frustrating as someone who does have a main platform that has to deal with this. You know, and again, I'm all for using Twitch as a funnel for whatever other website you want. I think it's absolutely the right call, right? That's just being a smart business woman most of the time. And it's just, you know, because listen, there's dudes out there killing it too, no doubt. But it's like you can't blame them. It's all on Twitch at the end of the day. And so yeah, I'd be curious to have a conversation with Dan, Mr. Clancy, and see like what the hesitation is to put the foot down right on this front, or to build out the systems necessary, because it's just like a gigantic question mark. And the indecision too is just like so nauseating. Like to put something in place, run it back a week later. It's just, what are we doing here?
Well, I guess they'll figure it out. But speaking of CEOs, hey, what else we got?
We got a big announcement that just dropped today, actually. I think most people knew it was coming, but Bobby Kotick is stepping down as the CEO of Activision Blizzard. He has been the CEO of Activision since 1991, and then of Activision Blizzard since the merger with Vivendi in 2008. So we're talking about a 32-year run as CEO of Activision. And he announced today that he will be stepping down in 2024. Well, on December 29th, so 2024.
Wow, that is a long run.
It is a really long time to be involved in the gaming industry.
I'm not too familiar with. Wait, was were they always the same
Call
company?
of Duty and a lot of those games.
Yeah, and Tony Hawk.
Yeah, I believe that.
Come on now.
Tony Hawk, yeah.
Activision Blizzard, were they always together?
So no. They merged in 2008. They bought Vivendi Games, which owned Blizzard at that point in time. And that's when they took over like World of Warcraft and all the Blizzard entities as well.
StarCraft, Hearthstone.
Doesn't shock me that he stayed as CEO as long as he did, honestly, because when it comes from a shareholder perspective and a business perspective, the man knew how to make money off of video games, oftentimes at the detriment of the user base of said video games. But he printed money and he delivered profits to shareholders for sure.
I wonder what other big games what do you think it was? Call of Duty? That was like the biggest.
Call of Duty is one of the biggest ones in the franchise.
For Activision, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, like, Blizzard has had one of like the most, epic runs in gaming for sure. Definitely has had like their fair share of mistakes over recent years.
Overwatch 2. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this was expected, right? Microsoft. I mean, the Gigacorp monopoly is finally here. Microsoft has purchased Activision Blizzard, which I think we talked about on a previous episode. And so, yeah, it's not. I didn't expect him to stick around. So it'll be up to Microsoft to announce his new replacement.
But do we think this is a good thing for the future of Activision Blizzard or a bad thing from a gaming perspective?
At the end of the day, it's like, is there a lesser of these like massive Gigacorp evils? Probably not. It's probably all around the same. I mean, like, I think about like what Microsoft is involved in now. They'll also own Bethesda, and I mean, it's kind of wild how many fires they have their iron in, right? And
I think they have a big chunk of open AI possibly, or at least the whole team after that whole CEO debacle. They acquired a lot of it or something.
Yeah,
I'm not too familiar on that.
It's definitely interesting. I don't think any company that large is doing anything positive for the consumer in the gaming industry. I mean, and I think most gamers will agree with that, right? These are the exact studios that don't take any risks. They spend more on marketing than the actual development of these games, and they are not fully fleshed out projects that are meant to give value to the consumer. And it's all about just padding their pockets for the bottom line. I would much rather follow and invest in much smaller studios trying to do much more passionate projects. So that's just me. I pay for my Season of Discovery World of Warcraft sub every month. $15 goes right into that pocket. I see Activision Blizzard on my statements. It is what it is, you know. But you know, I do think that like the team that is at the helm of Classic WoW is heavily invested and is doing a good job, I will say. And I think that there are pockets of that throughout the entire company. But again, there's just so many projects. I think most of them are misses among the hits.
There was actually good news on the dev team today too. To just add in, I believe that Ghostcrawler, the dev who I think did Blizzard, worked with Blizzard up through Wrath of the Lich King and that expansion, is back on the WoW dev team. So that is good news for the WoW dev team. He was a very good dev.
For retail?
I don't know if it's for retail or not. I didn't see the full announcement. I just saw he was back.
Okay.
That is good news. Duck, what you were about to say something?
I was just going to comment on just firstly, like, that's interesting because it seems like they're going a lot with the older devs that worked on the game initially. I mean, obviously the big one was Chris Metzen. But that's interesting now to hear that like another dev from those times of WoW has come back onto the team, because I think a lot of the player base, and we've seen that because of Classic, was pining for the older experience, the nostalgic experience that the older expansions offered. So it's good to see them leaning into it at the very least. And I'm actually, my second thing that I wanted to jump in on was to sort of play devil's advocate a little bit with what Mark said. I think, in my opinion, the bigger corporations will always have that driving force pushing down on the dev teams that ultimately make these products. But I think there is also an element of how much freedom they give to the individual teams that are working on those products. And if they give enough freedom to those individual teams, that's the big question for me about any of these products that are coming up and the new CEO coming in with Activision Blizzard. Is that individual going to give enough freedom to the dev teams?
Sure.
Because if he does, perhaps we could see some improvement and them managing to persuade them to do stuff that maybe the person that was in that place before would have said no to. So
it's a great point. I mean, that's exactly the thing that I maintain when it comes to Amazon and Dan Clancy, right? Is like, how much freedom are they going to give this guy? I think he has a good head on his shoulders. I think he genuinely wants to understand the problems. I think he works really hard. He's out there killing the game, like participating in everything possible for the Bleed Purple perspective. And, he really wants to get to the bottom of how we're going to make this platform better. And that feels really good, right? Like as a Twitch streamer. But, if his leash is short from Amazon, he can only make so much change, right? Whether he has good intentions or not, whether he's talented at what he does or not. And you're right, the exact same thing applies to these developers. It's will the companies have the spines to stand up to the shareholders and convince them that for the betterment of everyone, let's not push this product in an incredibly tight timeline. Right? Let's give them time to work on what they feel is necessary to provide the right product to the consumer. And as a result, like, gamers are way happier. They're willing to part with their dollars way easier if they feel satisfied with the product. And like, how that's not good for everyone, like, it blows my mind. Like, they are going to, like, these companies are struggling a lot. Because part of this has been going on for so incredibly long now, and gamers are disenfranchised, and they're not willing to just willy-nilly pre-order every single game that comes to the pipe from a AAA dev. They're becoming a lot more they're becoming a lot more cynical with regards to at least doing their due diligence. Maybe cynical is not the right word. I'm cynical, but maybe not everybody is.
I imagine the CEOs and these developers that are backed by these big companies and shareholders, I imagine they have to do such a delicate dance if they want to have any hope in persuading their shareholders and the board and all that stuff. I imagine they have to do such a delicate dance with like, no, this change is going to definitely be good for you guys. And in the back of their head, they're like, this change is really going to be good for the audience. And I'm hoping it'll be good for their pockets, but I have to phrase it in a way that like makes super sense to these shareholders and they think they're going to make a lot of money. It's probably such a,
and
it's
to be
probably
able to
exhausting.
do that dance, it requires the right kind of person, right? The person who understands like the structures that exist in these games that will be appreciated, right? And again, it's like that person who you have to have, and I've constantly called this person like the puzzle master, right? It's because it is just a gigantic puzzle of trying to fit this piece where it needs to go, so that you know, everyone is happy, everyone's appeased, and all things are firing on all cylinders, right? Like you have to understand so many moving parts to facilitate that. And I think that person's obviously super hard to come by, right? They don't often end up in the right role. So
Abe, your question overarching all of this was, is the change going to be for the better or not, right? With Activision Blizzard.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the same case of the devil you know versus the devil you don't, right? Like I don't think there's any way to tell right now, until maybe we get a name as to who's going to be the new person, whether he has any sort of background, you know, what background that is, what was his history with past decisions. But yeah, well, I guess we'll see, right? It's too early, I think, at this stage.
Time will tell.
Time will tell. I think we have time for one more chunk if we all got time. What do you say?
Make it happen.
What do we got?
All right. Well, we have. I'm going to give you a choice again too, because I have two things prepared. We could either delve into the auto industry or talk about some new revelations in cancer research. What do you guys want to discuss?
Let's leave it up to the guest, dude. Ducky. A or B, brother?
I'm going to pretend that I know something about any of those two topics.
All right.
We don't either.
All right, let's go for something positive.
Okay.
Cancer research sounds like a good one, Abe.
Yeah,
hopefully.
All right. Yeah.
New novel cancer has been discussed.
I believe this is a good one. I am very much in the pro-destroying cancer camp. I think it's a terrible disease. It's impacted my family too. So there has been a new breakthrough in cancer research. They're calling it, I love this name, the molecular jackhammer.
Okay.
So
that is
all right.
I think I saw that dude on the front page the other day.
Scientists at Rice University have actually found that there are atoms in dyes that are typically used for like imaging and things like that when you're doing imaging for locating things in people's bodies, that when you emit the right amount and intensity of light on them, they vibrate. And those vibrations produce a compound, and let me get this right because I don't want to say the wrong thing, called plasmin. And that plasmin is causing the membrane of the cancer cells to erupt and rupture. So this method has been found to have a 99% efficiency in lab cultures of human melanoma cells, and half the mice that are treated with melanoma tumors became cancer-free after the treatment. So essentially they inject this dye into you, they blast it with light, it vibrates, those vibrations then destroy the cancer cells.
Wow.
Okay.
This is kind of
innovative.
Sounds wild.
Yeah, but I feel like you could sell anything like this to me, to be fair, because like I don't have any sort of like informed knowledge about the topic at all, but it sounds good.
You said that they've done in vivo studies, Abe?
Yes, in lab mice that are injected, lab mice that have human melanoma cells.
With like great statistical significance, all positive.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting.
Like I said, half of the treatment, the mice, half the time the mice fully go cancer free after treatment.
Were the mice cancer free before those freaking lab people injected them with cancer too?
I'm assuming not.
I was, I was pitching for a positive with this topic, and we've just gone into.
Well, what if I told you I was the guy injecting once upon a time?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it's like you can't treat lab mice for neurofibromatosis if they don't have it. You feel me? Like you gotta give it to them first, dude. That's it's
Sometimes
unlucky.
you got to give Fievel some cancer so you can cure it. You know.
Yeah, it's just a little cancer, Stan.
It's just a little cancer. Oh man.
Yeah,
I feel we've talked about cancer breakthroughs a couple times on this podcast. I mean, how long is it until it's just like, guys, we got a cure for all of cancers?
yeah. I think the problem is that there are multiple types and they have different mechanisms to them, right? And so I think some of these are going to have like a more appropriate mechanism. Like this was for melanoma.
Yeah, that's what they've been testing on melanoma. I couldn't find if the research extended beyond that, but it's highly successful in treating that.
I mean, that's cool. I feel like melanoma is like definitely one of the less like radical forms, unless it's like not detected, right? I mean, detection's everything. But yeah, maybe this is like super viable for types that or for patients that had like later detection, right? That you just can't, excise, whatever it is, bada bing, bada boom. Very interesting. I think like the really positive takeaway is that we're utilizing dyes that we've already been injecting into humans, right? So there's like, I don't think the jump from mice to human studies is going to be like that massive as a result, right? They shouldn't face as much red tape during the process, because I know what that's like to go from like, to increase in the amount of complicated being that you're studying, right? From mouse to rat to rabbit to, and you really try to get as close as you can, right? While proving efficacy along the way. So I feel like that's like a really, really positive takeaway. It's like it's not some like foreign substance. We know how it's going to react in people to an extent, right? Maybe the amount is novel to a human, right? Because then they say it had to be like a very specific amount, or
I didn't see anything that stated anything about the amounts. The big thing with this happened to be that with these fluorescent synthetic dyes that they've been using for imaging, they didn't know how to extract the plasmin from them before, essentially, or have them generate it. So the new technology really is this discovery of essentially juicing them up with light stimulation to cause that to occur.
Right.
But they didn't state anything about amounts of dye needed or anything like that, just really about how they treat the dyes once it's in there, and a different approach to cancer research being like essentially molecular mechanical forces versus drugs and other compounds.
Right. Yeah, super interesting.
The tricky thing there as well will also be like the dissemination of like how to get it into the public's hands as well.
I think this would be like
in that field.
Lab treatment type, just like
Sign up
this
for
isn't
it.
a do it at home type.
Well, I should hope not. No, with a name like the molecular jackhammer, I wouldn't want to do that in my front room.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, very interesting.
Honey, hand me the molecular jackhammer. It just doesn't.
Oh gosh. All right. Well,
that's good stuff.
Markstrom.
Yeah.
What do you got coming up in the near future, dude? How you living?
I'm living large, man. I'm excited for the holidays. It's gonna be nice. Got some family in town. My wife's parents, they're here. We'll be hanging out. I'm gonna smoke a little brisket for Christmas. I'm very excited for that. And then on the 27th, we begin an end of the year event on the channel for live streaming. It's going to be 5 days, 12-hour days apiece. We have some very, very exciting things planned. I can't share those at this juncture of time, but if you tune in, I can guarantee you're going to enjoy yourself. So again, that starts the 27th. So very long days. Hopefully that can accommodate everyone's schedule. If you want to swing through, twitch.tv/Markstrom.
Dang. Duck, how about you, dude?
Content front, not a huge amount. I'm looking forward to a couple of weeks off content. To be honest with you, this is the great thing about YouTube, you see, is that like, yeah, you can take time off. Yes, you have to do the work in advance. So, but I'm hoping to have Christmas and New Year just completely content free, all planned, all done, all scheduled, ready to upload. The Project Zomboid world, we've got the next Thursdoid coming out tomorrow, confirmed by the devs today, so that's exciting. And see like the new stuff coming up. It's
December 21st for the listeners.
Yep. They hired somebody in the not too distant past to basically do like the media with these updates and like we've seen a lot more videos and pictures since then, which is always really exciting. So looking forward to that. And then Christmas, I'll spend 24th to the 27th with one side of my family, and then I've got a day in between, and then the 29th to the 2nd, I'll be traveling down to my other side of the family and spending it there. So I am going to be beat by the time it ends, I think.
Nothing like some time off to exhaust you.
Right, exactly. Looking forward to some time off content and then just social interaction the whole way through that.
Yeah.
2 weeks.
Yeah, it'll get you.
Oh man, well, good for you. And where can they find you?
Yeah, so that's youtube.com/MrAtomicDuck. So
Look at that.
No spaces, everyone. No spaces. That's
no
all
spaces in Mr. Atomic Duck, Abe. Yeah, that's correct. You'd know that from experience, wouldn't you? And your research on the topic.
Abe, how about you, dude?
Well, I'll give first a quick health update. I've beaten the Colombian flu.
Let's go.
I'm back to normal.
Nice.
So, just on that front, we are back to normal, baby. But then other than that, you can find me as usual over at Markstrom's channel as well. That's twitch.tv/Markstrom. I'll be moderating. Just don't ask me to do any prediction polls because I royally screwed that up this week. So I apologize to all the people that lost that bet on 6 Days in Fallujah. That's my bad. I owe you some channel points. But yeah, you can find me there moderating. I'll be trying to tune in the best I can. I got a lot of family stuff going on as well.
Pumping some big damage tomorrow in Black Fathom Depths.
That's right. Your boy is the feral druid for the raid, so he'll be pumping the deeps.
Very nice, very nice. I'm also a moderator in Markstrom's Twitch chat, so you can see me over there. I run a production company called License to Shoot Media, LTS.media. We make some crazy stuff. You should check it out. We launched a coffee company, Cafe Callazo. Go get some. It's freaking delicious. Markstrom's actually about to have for those who listen, Markstrom's actually about to have his own little blend and his own custom bag. So we're very excited about that.
That's an exclusive. My channel doesn't even know that yet.
Oh, oh snap. Oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that, dude. Don't tell Javi.
Don't tell Javi.
Other than that, we do this awesome podcast every week. Duck, thank you for coming through. Markstrom, we going to be live next week or is it Christmas?
What day is it next week? We got, it's the 27th. That is the beginning of my 5-day juicer.
You think we're going to be live?
That's maybe.
We're going to be, what?
TBD. That's a TBD.
TBD, if it's going to be on Twitch or YouTube? All right, we'll update you guys. If we don't see you next week, we'll see you the week after that. And peace.
Have a good one. Deuces.